In English, there are lots of different ways to describe actions or events in the present time. The most common one is to use simple present tense. What is this tense and how do we use it? Well, in a nutshell, it's the tense we use for actions or events that are in the present time but that aren't happening at this very moment. In other words, with this tense, we describe routines or events that happen on a regular basis but not at the moment. For example, I go shopping for food 3 times a week. We talk about the action in the present time, but which is not happening at this very moment. We talk about our routine. What does a sentence in simple present look like? Subject plus base form of a verb. I cook pancakes every morning. I brush my teeth twice a day. But when the subject is he, she, or it, we add as to the base form of the verb. I drink coffee in the morning, but Sam drinks coffee in the morning. We like spring, but my dog likes spring. I know 5 languages, but Sarah knows 5 languages. In questions, we put auxiliary verb do before the subject. If the subject is I, you, we, they, and we put does if the subject is he, she, it, and we drop as from the verb. For example, I drink coffee every morning. To ask a question, we add auxiliary verb or helping verb do. Do I drink coffee every morning? You drive a luxury car. To make a question, we put do before the subject you. Do you drive a luxury car? Or what kind of car do you drive? How often do you drive a luxury car? You see, the auxiliary verb do always comes before the subject in questions. Paul often works late. Paul is a he, so we use does in questions instead of do. Does Paul often work late? So the auxiliary verb does goes before the subject Paul, and we removed s from the verb. How often does Paul work late? Why does Paul often work late? Susan knows many rich people. Because Susan is a she, we put does in the question before Susan. Does Susan know many rich people? What kind of people does Susan know? How many rich people does Susan know? As you can see, we put the auxiliary verb do or does before the subject in questions in simple present. And now you probably have a question. What the heck is an auxiliary verb?
What the heck is this?
Think of it as a grammar word, something that doesn't have any actual meaning. It is used to help you understand which tense the question is in. Each tense in English has its own auxiliary verbs, sort of indicators of the tense. Now you know that simple present has two auxiliary verbs, do and does. They indicate simple present tense. So whenever you see do or does in the question before the subject, you know that this sentence is in simple present tense. But sometimes it happens that the subject in the question is unknown. If the subject is who, it's unknown. If the subject is what, it's unknown. Or if the subject is how many people, it's also unknown. In other words, when the subject is a question word or a question phrase like who, what, how many people, and in lots of other examples, we say that the subject is unknown. In case when the subject in the question is unknown, in simple present, we build this question without auxiliary verbs do or does. For example, Tom works with 10 other people. Let's make a question with an unknown subject. Who works with 10 other people? You see, in the positive sentence, the subject is Tom. In the question, who works with 10 other people, Tom hides behind the question word who. The subject in the question is unknown. That's why we don't have the auxiliary verb do or does. Compare it with another question where who is not a subject. Who does Tom work with? Here, our subject is known. It's Tom. And we use auxiliary verb does before it. And who is the object. If you forgot the difference between the subject and the object, I strongly recommend you to go through previous lessons. Okay, another example. What happens to water in the freezing temperatures? Here, the subject is what? A lot of people make a mistake thinking that water is the subject. So let's check. The predicate is happens. And as you remember from the previous lessons, predicate always goes after the subject, not before it. So our predicate goes after what, which makes what a subject. And because what is an unknown subject, we don't use auxiliary verb do or does. So, how do we make a negative sentence? We put do not or does not before a verb. And just like in questions with does, we drop the ending s from the verb. For example, I work as a judge in the court. It's a positive sentence. I do not work as a taxi driver. This is a negative sentence. We put do not before the predicate work. I do not work as a taxi driver. My mom likes fish. It's a positive sentence. My mom does not like meat. It's a negative sentence. We put does not before the predicate like, and we dropped the ending s. My mom does not like meat. We often contract do not into don't and does not into doesn't. I do not work as a taxi driver. I don't work as a taxi driver. My mom does not like meat. My mom doesn't like meat. In the next lesson, I'll talk about the situations in which we use simple present. Stay tuned.